In a fertile valley, surrounded by mountains and rivers, lay a small town with a humble beginning, Asempakram. Years ago, this town was known only to its 5,000 people, who were mostly farmers. They had no riches to boast of, yet the townsfolk carried a quiet pride in their hearts. They worked tirelessly, tilling their fields and tending their animals from dawn until dusk, sharing their harvest and celebrating each small success together. Over time, the hard work paid off. Year after year, the crops flourished, and the town grew wealthier. Their reputation for excellent produce and craftsmanship spread, and soon traders from distant towns traveled there to buy their goods. The marketplace bustled with visitors, stalls overflowed with fruits, spices, pottery, and hand-sewn garments. The townspeople marveled at their own fortune, grateful for the rewards of their efforts. And their visitors, who multiplied in numbers by day, blessed their luck. Some even settled in Asempakram permanently. But as the years passed and Asempakram's prosperity and foreigner base grew, so did the townspeople's sense of comfort. Slowly, a shift occurred. With wealth came complacency. Farmers who once rose before dawn to tend their fields began arriving later each day, thinking, what harm can it do to take it easy for once? Merchants who had once taken pride in their goods started cutting corners, selling lesser quality wares at higher prices. Too much greed was in the system, and the townsfolk began to lose their sense of unity, each person looking out more for themselves than for each other. As the town's wealth dwindled, visitors began to leave. Most of them were in fact chased out because the townsfolk blamed them for what they described as their bad luck and misfortune. And the once busy market grew quiet. Weeds took root in abandoned fields, and the laughter and chatter that had once filled the streets faded to silence. The townsfolk were puzzled, some even blaming the envy of neighboring towns. But none of them saw how their own actions had led to this steady decline. The town's king, Nana Bidyako, a wise and caring ruler, was heartbroken to watch his people lose all they had worked so hard to build. He tried everything to uncover the reason behind their misfortune. He called council meetings, consulted with elders, and even sought advice from travelers and visiting merchants. Yet no one seemed to know the answer. Everyone had an opinion, but no one saw their own hand in the town's decline. Frustrated but determined, the king devised a plan to reveal the truth. He announced a grand celebration to honor the town's heritage and invited everyone to his palace for a feast. The townsfolk were delighted. A party at the palace would be a refreshing change from their recent struggles. There was, however, one special request. The king asked each family to bring a calabash of their best wine as an offering to honor the town's history and their shared fortune. This wine would be poured into a large communal barrel at the palace gates, creating a blend of their finest drinks for all to enjoy. As the townspeople prepared for the celebration, one man, a farmer named Weusi, thought to himself, a single calabash of water won't make a difference in such a large barrel of wine. Why waste my good wine when no one will even notice? With that thought, Weusi filled his calabash with water instead and carried it to the palace, confident that the other wines would mask his small deceit. The night of the celebration arrived, and under the lantern-lit sky, the townsfolk gathered at the palace, pouring their calabashes into the enormous barrel as instructed. Laughter and excitement filled the air as they exchanged stories and awaited the first taste of their communal wine. At the height of the celebration, the king lifted a cup filled from the barrel and raised it in a toast to the town's unity and future. But as he took a sip, his expression changed. He swallowed, puzzled, and tasted it again. He glanced at his advisors, who each took a sip in turn, their faces mirroring his disbelief. The king turned to the crowd, holding up his cup. My friends, he said, his voice echoing through the hall, this cup does not hold wine, it holds water. A hush fell over the crowd. The townspeople looked at one another in shock, some with faces flushed in embarrassment, others glancing away in shame. Slowly, they realized what had happened. Each of them, assuming their own small deception would go unnoticed, had brought water instead of wine. By thinking only of themselves, they had filled the barrel entirely with water. The king sighed and set down his cup. Our town has not been cursed, nor have we lost our fortune to bad luck, he said. We have lost our fortune because we lost our spirit of unity. We stopped giving our best, and instead, we each sought to gain without giving. By thinking only of ourselves, we robbed our community of its richness. The townsfolk stood silent, absorbing the weight of his words. Each of them felt the sting of his rebuke, seeing how their actions had contributed to their town's decline. The grand celebration they had hoped for had turned into a sobering lesson. From that day forward, the townspeople were reminded of the cost of selfishness and the value of unity. They returned to their fields and shops with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to rebuild their town's prosperity. They worked hard not just for themselves, but for each other, understanding that the strength of their community was in their shared efforts. And over time, the valley bloomed once more. Fields that had been abandoned grew green and abundant, markets filled with fresh produce and crafted goods, and travelers returned to enjoy the town's honest and warm-hearted spirit. The people learned that true prosperity could only be achieved when everyone poured their best into the communal barrel of their town. Lovely viewers, this particular story is a personal favorite, and I hope you enjoyed it too. If you did, kindly like the video and please don't forget to share with your loved ones. Don't forget to drop a comment on some of the moral lessons you learned from this story. Can't wait to read them in the comments below. Thank you, and see you all again soon.